Step 4, strengthen your blood and circulation. So what we will explore in step 4 includes the microcirculation, what the effect of blood sugar has on microcirculation, the effects of blood thickness on the microcirculation. Then we're going to look at your lymphatic flow and your lymphatic system function to see how this all plays into your functional health recovery. So here's a picture of what is called your microcirculation. And what you need to know about your microcirculation is this is how oxygen and nutrients are delivered to all of your glands, organs, and tissues. There's two parts to your microcirculation. The first part is shown here in red, and that is how all of the oxygen and nutrients are transported from your heart, your lungs, and your digestive tract to deliver all of the nutrients to your glands, organs, and tissues. It is in the middle of this slide where all the action takes place. The oxygen and nutrients are transported from the blood into the gland, organ, and tissues in the middle of this capillary network. At the same time, toxins and debris are taken from the glands, organs, and tissues and deposited back into the blood. The capillary network that is within every gland, organ, and tissue in your body is literally a one cell thick layer or membrane that allows the transfer of oxygen and nutrients into the cells and glands and organs and tissues, and the toxins and the debris to come out of those glands, organs, and tissues. These capillaries are so thin that it allows only one blood cell at a time to pass through each capillary network. This allows the transfer of the oxygen and nutrients to become more efficient. Once your blood has squeezed through that capillary network and the good stuff has been deposited into the glands, organs, and tissues, and the bad stuff has been transferred back into the blood system so that it can get rid of or recycled, then the blood goes through the venous capillaries, through the venules, back to the veins, so it can be recycled and cleaned again through your liver. So why is your microcirculation so important? It is because every organ, tissue, and gland contains these microvessels that supply oxygen and nutrient to create health. Therefore, if the circulation is damaged in any way, it will impact the function of those organs, glands, and tissues and decrease your overall health. So what are microvessels anyway? The term microvessels refers to the small arteries, arterioles, capillaries, venules, and veins that make up the entire capillary bed. When the blood finally reaches the capillaries, there is only one layer of cells separating the blood from the surrounding tissues. And there's only one blood cell at a time that is able to pass through that capillary. Because this is where the oxygen and nutrients are exchanged from the blood and put into the body. And this is also where the toxins and debris are put back into the blood to be taken away to be disposed of through the liver. The microcirculation is so important. We're going to drive this point home even further because the path your blood takes to deliver the oxygen and nutrients and to get rid of toxins is the key component of you being able to get healthy and stay healthy for life. So the blood and the nutrients come in through your arteries and they pass through the smaller vessels called arterioles that lead to the capillaries, and this is the one cell layer. And it creates a thoroughfare channel where the exchange of good stuff for bad stuff gets to your glands, organs, and tissues. As you can see in the middle of this cross section, the capillaries are dispersed throughout all of your glands, organs, and tissues so that then the nutrients and the oxygen can be delivered effectively. Once the exchange has occurred, then the blood that is full of toxins passes back through what's called your venules to your vein so that then it can be transported back through your heart and filtered by your liver. Your microcirculation and the health of all of these microvessels is really where the rubber meets the road when it comes down to your overall health. So it is extremely important for you to understand this concept so that then we can work to get all of these one cell layer capillaries to work correctly so you can put good stuff in and take bad stuff out. So now that you understand how important your microcirculation is for your overall health, how are microvessels damaged? So here is some of the different ways that the microvessels can be damaged, but these are the most common ones that we see. One of the most common causes of damage to the microvessels is blood sugar problems. If you have metabolic syndrome, diabetes type 2, insulin resistance, any kind of blood sugar issue causes inflammation to these microvessels and causes damage. Another extremely common way that microvessels become damaged is by dehydration. When you are dehydrated, those small capillaries where only one blood cell at a time can pass through, if there is not enough fluid, then it causes irritation to the inside of those capillaries and can lead to further damage. The next thing that can be extremely damaging to your microvessels is a poor diet. If you're eating a lot of processed food, if you're drinking a lot of sugary drinks, if you're eating a lot of extra sugar in your diet, all of these things are extremely damaging to that capillary bed where the exchange of good and bad occur. Lack of exercise or movement is the next thing that can be extremely damaging to your microvessels. Every time you move, every time you exercise, you are increasing the amount of nutrition of that capillary bed as well as the tissues and organs and glands that are around that capillary bed. So if you exercise, you are actually increasing the amount of pliability of those microvessels and keeping them healthy. Another common way that microvessels become damaged is by hormone imbalances. A common hormone imbalance is estrogen to progesterone. When you have too much estrogen in your system, it causes inflammation and irritation to occur even at the capillary level. And so if you get those hormones back into balance, you decrease the amount of damage done to the microvessels. Another very common way that microvessels become damaged is when they are subjected to prolonged extreme stress. When you are under an extreme amount of stress for a long period of time, irritating chemicals start to get down to the capillary level and start to cause damage and leads to a decrease in the exchange of good nutrients and bad toxins. So we have just highlighted some very common ways that microvessels become damaged, but there is hundreds of more that can be added to this list. What you really need to understand is that when you are doing everything you can from an attitude point of view, from a whole food nutrition point of view, from a healthy lifestyle point of view, and from a movement point of view, all of these four components are necessary for you to keep your microvessels healthy for life. So let's dive deep into why blood sugar issues are the most important thing you can do today to help keep your microcirculation healthy for life. As we discussed in the slide before, diabetic prevalence is one of the main causes of microvessel damage. And so this slide demonstrates that by looking at, in 1958, less than 1 million people in the US was diagnosed with diabetes. By 2010, that number had jumped to over 20 million. This shows that the blood sugar issues that we're dealing with today is the most important thing to keeping your microcirculation healthy. So why does blood sugar problems cause so much stress and damage to the microcirculation? Here's a visual picture of how that happens and why the stress response is responsible for so much damage to the microcirculation because of blood sugar problems. When you have a stressor, this is the seed of mental, physical, or emotional problems. And what happens is that stress response then creates inflammation and increased cortisol in your body. That increase in inflammation causes damage to the microcirculation, to the capillaries. And this damage then turns around and leads to heart damage and to elevated cholesterol. Cholesterol is an extremely important part of your overall stress response. And your cholesterol elevates because it is the precursor to all of your stress, sex, and inflammation hormones. So when you start to have an increase in inflammation, you're also going to have an increase in your cholesterol. As the inflammation continues to occur and the damage to the capillaries or microcirculation continues, this is what leads to the heart damage that leads to problems with congestive heart failure, and where the blood flow that is supposed to bathe and give nutrients to the heart becomes less, and this leads to problems. The right-hand side of this diagram shows how when you have a mental, physical, or emotional stress, it also increases the amount of cortisol you produce. Increased cortisol has three basic effects on your body. The first effect is it causes insulin resistance. The second effect is it increases the amount of fat storage. And then the third effect is it suppresses your immune function. When you suffer from insulin resistance, two other hormone-resistant problems start to occur. The first is called ghrelin resistance, and ghrelin is your hunger hormone. It tells you when you're hungry. The second resistance that occurs is called leptin resistance, and leptin is your satiety hormone, or tells you when you are full. So as you progress from insulin resistance to ghrelin resistance and leptin resistance, the next step is you increase the amount of fat that you store in your body. And this fat is stored in your core, or it's also called visceral adipose tissue, or VAT. So as all of the hormone resistance gets worse and more fat is being stored, the fat actually migrates to your core of your body, inside your organ cavity, and that's called the viscera. And there is a term that's called visceral adipose tissue, and that refers to the fat that surrounds all of your organs inside the core of your body. They have now shown that the VAT, the visceral adipose tissue, actually starts to produce its own hormones and makes these problems worse. Another effect that happens when you have an increased cortisol because of a prolonged stress response is a suppressed immune function. Think back to a time when you were in school or in your job where you had a prolonged action or job that you were doing, and when you got done, you got sick. This is a classic example of after a prolonged stress, your immune system is depleted and allows you to get infected. Now that you understand what the stress response does to your blood sugar, look what the modern diabetic treatment does to your blood sugar. Diabetes, for the most part, is treated through medication. How often have we all heard, when diet and exercise aren't enough, use X, use this medication? But the side effects of diabetic medication can include blindness, lower limb amputations, kidney failure, heart disease and stroke, and even premature death. Is that the kind of treatment that you'd like to see? So, how does diabetic treatment start in the first place? It starts with you having different symptoms. And the symptoms that are shown on the bottom of this graph could include blurry vision, irritability, increased fatigue, excessive thirst, frequent urination, poor sleep, tingling in your hands and feet, poor wound healing, or frequent infections. All of these different symptoms are blood sugar related symptoms that could lead to you going to your doctor to see if you are diabetic. So then you become concerned. Are all these symptoms leading to me having blood sugar issues and becoming diabetic? The next step in the process then is for you to get testing done. So the next level of diagnosing you as a diabetic then turns to blood testing and checking your blood pressure. If your blood pressure comes back high, they will talk to you about diet and medication and exercise. If your blood glucose levels are higher than normal, they will also talk to you about diet, medication, and exercise. And then the final part, if your blood levels are high for your LDLs and low for your HDLs, they will also begin to talk to you about diet, medication, and exercise. If you are diagnosed with high blood pressure, of course they will talk to you about diet and exercise, but they will almost immediately want to put you on medication for that high blood pressure. And some of the classic side effects of high blood pressure medication are depression, skin rashes, erectile dysfunction, insomnia, dizziness, irregular heartbeat, and constipation. And since one of the side effects of high blood pressure medication is depression, many times they will add a medication for that depression and cause even further side effects. Another common side effect of high blood pressure medication is erectile problems or erectile dysfunction. This many times will lead to a new medication with new side effects. Insomnia is also a common side effect of high blood pressure medication. And many times the diagnosis of insomnia will lead to another medication with even more side effects. When blood sugar levels are higher than normal, the classic medical route is let's talk about your diet, let's put you on some medication, and let's talk about some exercise. But as we have all heard hundreds of times every night on TV, when diet and exercise aren't enough, most of the time they will want to put you on medication for your high blood sugar very quickly. The most common side effects found with blood sugar medications include weight gain, tiredness or dizziness, kidney or liver complications, gas, bloating, diarrhea, and swelling. When blood tests show that you have high LDLs and low HDL cholesterol, this also leads to a conversation where they're talking about diet and exercise and probably wanting to put you on a cholesterol medication. Cholesterol medication has many side effects that include sleep disorders, drowsiness, dizziness, nausea and vomiting, bloating, gas and diarrhea, and constipation. Dehydration is also a main cause of microvessels not working correctly and becoming damaged. When you are dehydrated, your blood becomes too thick and it can't move through those tiny microvessels properly. This creates an imbalance in your ability to feed your glands, organs, and tissues with the oxygen and the nutrients and to get rid of the toxins. You also have to watch out for when your blood becomes too thin, it can also cause problems. Many medications are designed to thin the blood. This also changes the way that the microvessels work. When the blood is too thin, not enough oxygen and nutrients reach those glands, organs, and tissues, and they become inflamed, and you actually begin to age faster. Now that we have discussed how the microvessels become damaged and how the blood is extremely important when it comes to the transfer of oxygen and nutrients into the cells, organs, glands, and tissues, and the toxins out of the cells, glands, organs, and tissues, let's now talk about a second fluid that you have in your body that is called lymph. So what is lymph? Lymph is a clear, colorless fluid. The word lymph comes from the Latin word lymphia, which means water or connected to water. After blood plasma leaves your microvessels and delivers the oxygen and nutrients to the cells and picks up the toxins, most of the plasma is absorbed back into the venules. On average, about 20 liters of blood plasma is transferred from the microvessels to the cells to deliver the oxygen and nutrients and to pick up the toxins. But about 3 liters of that plasma is left behind and is not put back into the venules to go back to the veins. This 3 liters of plasma becomes the lymph fluid. But unlike blood, lymph only flows in one direction. It flows upward toward the neck to be deposited just before it gets into your heart. Lymph fluid is carried around by what is called your lymphatic system. And there is 3 main functions of your lymphatic system. The first function is what we just talked about, to collect and recycle excess fluid that comes out of your tissues. Most of the time, this is plasma. The second function of your lymphatic system is to absorb digestive fats and take them to the heart where they can be used for fuel. The third function of your lymphatic system, and what it is usually known for, is to start and coordinate the immune response to remove cell debris, bacteria, toxins, fungus, parasites, and viruses from your blood and your body, and then get rid of them through your digestive tract. So on the right side of this slide is a general representation of how the circulatory system and the lymphatic system interact with each other. If you begin at the top and look at the pulmonary circuitry and the pulmonary capillaries, this is the microvessels where oxygen is transferred from your lungs to your blood, and then it goes down and gets pumped into the rest of your body through the left side of your heart. This is called the systemic circuit. And as oxygenated blood then goes through your body and gets down to the systemic capillaries, this is where the oxygenated blood is transferred into the organs, glands, and tissues. So as you look at the bottom of this diagram on the right-hand side of the slide, you see that the systemic capillaries push the majority of the plasma out into the tissues. And then most of that fluid is then reabsorbed back into the venules, which goes into the veins, which goes into the right side of the heart. But about 3 liters of that fluid per day is left within the tissues surrounding those capillaries. And that fluid is then absorbed by the lymphatic capillaries, which turns around and takes that fluid through the lymphatic vessels and then puts it back into the veins just before it gets to the right side of the heart. So to understand the lymphatic system at a little bit deeper level, the first function of the lymphatic system is to collect and recycle that fluid that is not reabsorbed by the venules and the capillaries. When the oxygenated blood is pushed through these small capillaries and oxygen and nutrients are exchanged within that capillary bed, other fluid can also leak out of that capillary. This fluid, which is mostly plasma, and plasma is a component of your blood, is then reabsorbed by your lymphatic system. The second major function of your lymphatic system is to transport fats from your digestive tract back to your heart to use as fuel. This is one reason why there is a great deal of lymph nodes and lymphatic capillaries that surround your entire digestive tract. These microscopic fat droplets are absorbed by these lymphatic capillaries around your digestive tract and are transported directly to your heart. Because what most people don't realize is that these fat droplets are the preferred fuel to burn for energy of your heart. So the more microscopic fat that your lymphatic system can put into your heart, the better your heart likes it. So here is another really good reason to put more good fat into your diet. Because the less good fat you eat and digest, the less preferred fuel that you have for your heart function. The third major function of your lymphatic system, and what most people think of when they think about the lymphatic system, is that it begins to start and coordinate the immune response and to help remove cell debris, bacteria, toxins, fungus, parasites, and viruses from your body. Think of your lymphatic system like it's the house for your immune system cells. This is where they live and get ready for action at a moment's notice. The other thing the lymphatic system does is it acts like the trash collector because it picks up all the dead cells, dead bacteria, fungus, parasites, toxins from your immune system doing battle inside the tissues and deposits this trash back into the blood so it can be later cleaned out by your liver. Your lymphatic system is the battlefield for your immune system. Your lymphatic system contains your white blood cells, and your white blood cells are designed to protect you against infection. There are two basic types of white blood cells that are produced by the organs and tissues of the lymphatic system. The first type of white blood cell is called a T cell, and it originates in the bone marrow and matures in a gland called the thymus gland. Then it further matures into different types of T cells depending on what is needed at the time by the immune system. The second type of white blood cell is called a B cell. This also originates in the bone marrow and is involved with antibody production. So now that you know more than you ever thought you would about strengthening your blood and circulation, what do you really need to know about step 4? All of your fluids pass through a 1-cell layer thick membrane that carries all of the vital nutrients, oxygen, hormones, and substances to your glands, organs, and tissues, and takes it away from your glands, organs, and tissues, and this makes your body work effectively. Unless all of these membranes are working at their best, there is no way you can reach your full health potential. And the great news is for all of us that we all make new fluids and membranes all the time. So do you want that next generation of your fluids and membranes to be worse, stay the same, or be better than they are right now? It's really your choice. So do you have any further questions about strengthening your blood and circulation? If you do, and you haven't filled out your personalized functional health recovery assessment online yet, click on this provided link, My Personalized Assessment, and request your unique, encrypted, HIPAA-compliant link to uncover the one thing that will help you right now to strengthen your blood and circulation. Once you fill out your assessment, our health coach will contact you to set up a time for you to go over your assessment results with a doctor for free. There is no obligation, and your results are completely confidential and will never be shared with anyone.